Hello, it is Jack Gill, and welcome back to Redmen Academy. It's been a bit of a while since me and James last did a video. We've both been dead busy with university work and stuff like that. I just wanted to bring you all up to date with everything going on at the minute. We've got quite a few things to talk about today, and we'll try and shove it into a pretty short video. Me and James over the next few weeks are going to try and find new content in terms of the Bundesliga, which we'll talk about more in a bit. James, firstly, how are you doing? How's this station coming?
Yeah, not too bad. Things are getting better, I think. Obviously getting plenty of walking done, doing about 10 kilometres a day, which is more than I've ever done before. I'm just walking for the sake of it now, but, not too bad.
Yeah, I've got to a point now. We spoke about coming on air before. I had to stop the videos for a few days because that was one of the many excuses I'm finding for not doing university work. I need to do this. I need to do this. I was staying in bed till like 6 p.m. I was playing Xbox. I was doing all sorts. So, I've just had to go right for 2 weeks. Let's concentrate on uni work and go for that. So yeah. But yeah, as you say, things are starting to look a tiny bit better right now. And we'll start by talking about obviously the most recent news in England. Obviously, the last video we did was quite downbeat. I think we titled it in the end, "I'm giving up with football." When things looked a lot bleaker, obviously we just heard the suspension of French football and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, James, now we've got football perhaps coming back on the 1st of June.
We've got a little bit of hope, haven't we? We've got sort of the carrot at the end of the stick now. I think this is what everyone sort of needed. I know obviously certain fans won't be happy about this, but I think for the majority, to have some sort of entertainment, some sort of normality brought back to us is going to be a massive lift. I think even the government, as much as they dislike football seemingly, if they're even saying how much of a lift it's going to be for the people, then, it's only really a matter of time, isn't it? And I'm quite happy to see sort of the developments the last few days.
Absolutely. The thing is as well, and it's got to a point where I've spoke about this so much and I'm seeing so much about it that I don't know where I stand on it anymore because it's
I'm
like
just done with it at this point.
I mean, again, we've said before about politics on this channel and stuff like that, but I mean, I think everyone agrees with me that the speech the other day from Boris Johnson was an absolute pile of shit. It was a shit show, and to be honest with you, I think. There were a lot of questions and a lot of worries after that, and everyone went into a bit of a meltdown and stuff like that. And I can understand why people like Danny Rose and Raheem Sterling have come out and been quite obviously outspoken about their worries if football is to come back. I suppose it's very easy for us to say from a selfish point of view that we want it back for our well-beings and our mental health and stuff like that. But at the end of the day, these footballers have got to worry about their lives and their families' lives and it is a big thing to think about, and you don't want football brought back when it's not safe to bring a lot of other things back. But obviously, with the news that obviously people are starting to go back to work, and by the 1st of June, a lot more people are going to work, it's going to be obviously easier to see football coming back in the UK. And I think the big thing for me, James, was obviously, yes, the French football season has been suspended, but that was because the government said it should be suspended. Whereas, obviously, we saw yesterday in the House of Commons, Boris Johnson seems very keen on getting football back in the UK.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and I think it's obviously going to divide people, but it's going to have to be done sooner or later. And there's going to have to be a point where we say, okay, we tried, get things back to them. If it doesn't work, then so be it. But at least we tried, we gave it a go. And if it's too soon, it's too soon. Because ultimately, I know it sounds a bit cliche, but you don't know until you try it. And I know there's a lot of things at stake, but there's a lot at stake for not giving it a go as well. Football clubs are faced with a 340 million TV rights refund just for this season. That could send even Premier League teams into the red. So it's a matter of sort of testing the waters, seeing if this is something that is actually possible, and then moving ahead with it.
Yeah, there's loads on this at the minute. Obviously, there's loads on obviously what the FA chief Greg Dyke said yesterday in terms of the bottom six, and that there's been a lot on Sky Sports. They seem to be releasing the same article every day about how the bottom six don't want relegation this year. They want relegation scrapped, and obviously Greg Dyke came out yesterday and said that will not be possible. They will not scrap relegation, and they'll also not void the league, which seems to be said by so many people every day.
Music's my ears, to be honest.
Yeah, exactly. But the whole not voiding the league, it was only, well, it was 4 weeks ago, a month ago now, where obviously UEFA and FIFA came out and said leagues will not be voided. So I don't know why people still need to keep saying that, but there's a lot of, obviously, this null and void brigade seems to get bigger and bigger as the days go. But, it's one of them where I think a lot of people now are getting to the point where they can see football coming back in their sights. And something that we're going to go on to in a minute of the Bundesliga, obviously back this weekend. But yeah, it's going to be brilliant when football's back. But making sure that it's safe to do so when it does come back, I think is very important, because obviously there's a lot of worries at the minute that maybe we're going back to work too soon. Maybe Boris Johnson's rushing things here and it needs to be a lot slower. So it is very interesting. And I suppose these footballers will probably think, well, actually we'll be going back to work and back to playing football before actually people can get their haircuts and stuff like that. So, it is going to be interesting to see how it unfolds. I think they are desperate to finish this season as soon as possible, but it needs to be safe to do so. And, we've seen stuff today where clubs will obviously be back in training, some of them on Monday. Some players will refuse to do so, which, they're well within their rights to do so. They absolutely are. But, if it is safe, if clubs can make it safe, and if the government have ideas for how it can be safer for them to train, I think that absolutely needs to be done, because we need to try and get back to normal or some kind of normal sooner rather than later. That's enough for England. Obviously, we've spoken a lot about England's football and everything. So, and obviously that's probably all you're hearing at the minute, and you're probably sick of hearing it like me and James are. So we'll move on, and we'll bring you some really good news to start with. Bundesliga back this weekend. And that means me and James have some actual proper content to give you.
I have missed having something to actually watch and talk about, because I feel like we're just pulling things off the internet right now.
This is the thing. We've done obviously content over the last few days and weeks. It seems to be the same stuff that you read in the news. It seems to be the same stuff everyone's talking about. And it's like, we want new information. We want new stuff to talk about rather than just spouting all kinds of shite. But here we go. We have football back. We have German football back. We have lots of young players. We have so much talent there to talk about in the Bundesliga. We have Timo Werner to watch. We have Klopp's old team Dortmund to watch. Obviously, there's Gio Reyna, Jadon Sancho. So many good youngsters at Dortmund. Haaland, of course. So many good youngsters in the Bundesliga as a whole. Kai Havertz, another one. And we'll try and keep you up to date with all of them as well. I know, obviously, there might be some stuff on the main channel as well, and there's probably going to be loads of stuff on the Bundesliga in the next few weeks, because that's the only football we're going to have to talk about. But it's good for the Bundesliga as well, because obviously they're the first back. Everyone is desperate for football right now, and all eyes across the world are going to be on Bundesliga, aren't they?
Yeah, for what I've seen, I don't know if it's completely true. I saw it online that BT are expecting to have sort of World Cup level numbers of people watching Bundesliga, which is, you don't really even get that in England, let alone, having it for a foreign league. It's going to be completely unprecedented, isn't it?
I mean, I love watching European football. I love watching all kinds of football. I think we're at the age, James, where football is obviously still brilliant for us. And boredom's a real thing. We don't have families. So if we're bored, stick the football on, whatever game it is. Werder Bremen against Frankfurt, I'll watch that. Why not? Any game I'd be up for watching. And anyway, so the fact that football's back in any sort at the minute, we've got the Bundesliga, we've got German football, obviously high caliber football. I think it's going to be very good, and I think a lot of people will be with us where we're still stuck in lockdown. You've got nothing to do, you're very bored, and you think, what? They're showing all the Bundesliga games on BT Sport. That's my weekend sorted, and that's what I thought instantly when I saw today that obviously the Bundesliga will be showing all those games. So yeah, my weekend plan is sorted. I've got football back, and I am absolutely buzzing, James. I don't know about you.
I mean, it's better than watching Netflix all day. I mean, all I've been doing is just watching things on Netflix, things on Amazon Prime over the weekend in the week, because there's nothing else to do. Now I can watch the football, and then through the week, watch the highlights. We can do a bit of research for a video. We'll actually have our normal sort of working schedule back, won't we? And it's going to be brilliant. I can't wait to have that sort of routine kind of back, because it's better than just every day, sort of like a weekend, isn't it, for the last 2 months now?
Absolutely, and let us know in the comments who you think we should obviously look at, and who you're going to be watching, who you're going to be supporting when the Bundesliga is back, and which youngsters you have your eye on, which youngsters you want to know a bit more about. Me and James will do our work and see what we can come up with. So yeah, that's our plan for the next few weeks. Sorted anyway. That'll get me ready for Liverpool coming back. But yeah. We'll move on now to some Liverpool news, transfer news. And we're going to start with Pedro Chirivella. Obviously, there was some big news over the weekend. We've been talking about this lad for a while now, James, because obviously I certainly was shocked when this guy obviously has come in this season. He's looked very good when he's had first team opportunities, and he's also looked good with the under 23s as well. He's a player that seems to be have been at Liverpool forever. He's been on various loan moves and stuff like that on his time at Liverpool, but obviously we've known recently that his contract is coming to an end, and it's likely that he'll move on. And obviously over the weekend, Get French Football News have reported that, and I am very sorry for my pronunciation here. I know I get bullied a lot in the comments over pronunciation, but Nantes have apparently struck a deal to sign 22-year-old Pedro Chirivella. Nantes, however we're going to go with it. I mean, I don't like the way I think it's obviously pronounced, but that's what I'm going to go with. But yeah, apparently they've agreed a 3-year contract, a free transfer for Pedro Chirivella. James, I've spoken numerous times on this channel and the main Red Men account about Pedro Chirivella, and obviously Marko Grujic hasn't had the best of seasons at Hertha, and we know he's obviously going to come back and he's going to be in and around the first team next season. I've often compared Chirivella to him and said, why not wait until he's back, give him the contract, wait till Grujic is back, and then you can directly compare them against each other. Do you think it's going to be a massive loss losing Chirivella on a free?
I mean, I'm sad to see him leave. Obviously, we paid $2 million for him, I think, 5-6 years ago, and it was quite a big signing at the time. Paying that sort of money for an unproven teenager was, almost unprecedented. And I do, every time I see him play, I really like what I see. He's impressed me at under 23 level, but he isn't quite there yet. And for his sake, it's probably not worth sticking around, signing a short-term contract in case it works out, when he's going to get minutes in France. He's going to probably want to be, at least a squad player, and he's going to be getting appearances nearly every week, I think.
I think he'll be a very good player in the French league. I think elsewhere he'll be a very good player. I think he's not the finished article yet. I think he's not had enough first team football, but you can see every time he steps on the pitch, he doesn't have a bad game. He's clearly a talent, and if he has more regular first team football, I think he'll turn into a really good player. We've seen with Lucas Leiva when he's moved to Lazio. Obviously, we know he was a good player at Liverpool. He's always been a bit of a cult hero, Lucas Leiva. Obviously, bar the start of his career at Anfield. But, I think he moved elsewhere, and obviously he's more suited to Lazio. And I think Chirivella will be the same. Obviously, he's probably not our level at the minute. He's not, he's nowhere near the likes of Fabinho or any of our other midfielders. But, I really think he could be on the fringes of our first team squad. And with more time in the first team, I think he'll improve more as a player. I think it is a real shame to lose him on a free, but for his career, this would be a good move. And I think for first team football somewhere on a regular basis, this is probably what he'll want. And as we've said constantly this season, he's looked good, and he's clearly put himself in the shop window for teams. Who will be looking at him and thinking, he's a good player and he'll fit us perfectly. But I do think it will be a shame to see him go. And I do think it's interesting because, as I said, Marko Grujic may come back and we may be like, actually, I think Chirivella was a bit better than this lad. And, we may be watching Chirivella getting games week in, week out for Nantes and looking very good. Whereas Grujic, we hardly see him in the Liverpool first team. And, maybe 23s a couple of times and he doesn't even look good there. You just don't know at this point, and then maybe we sell him in January. But I think the thing is, we've seen from a lot of his time at Hertha, we've seen Marko Grujic do it at the top level. We've seen him do it in the Bundesliga, and he's very, very good for them. It's just because, that bit, the fact that he's a bit inconsistent, it really does worry me a tiny bit. But I suppose when he comes back, James, he's not going to be a regular in the first team, is he? So he is just to be a squad player.
If Manny's not sort of going to be freely available this summer, and we're not going to be able to sort of go after the players we might have been looking at, that having someone of Gruich's calibre come in and go into that travelling squad isn't the worst option at all, because we are likely to be losing maybe the odd player, and he is a top standard player, and he's good enough to play consistently in a arguably I would say the second best league in the world. So I've got no complaints. Obviously, Chirivella's a loss, and I do like him. I'm going to follow probably the rest of his career because he seems like a very mature, very interesting player. But we'll just have to see what happens this summer, really.
I think the thing is as well. Obviously, we got Leighton Clarkson coming through, another good young holding midfielder, and I think, as I said before, I think it is either Chirivella or Gruich that does go this summer. I think it's one or the other, and I think Chirivella is probably the more obvious one. If you were to measure them up against each other, James, which one would you say? You'll put yourself in Jurgen Klopp's shoes. Which one would you want to keep more?
It's tricky because you're going from consistency. Chirivella's consistently, a 6 out of 10. You know what you're getting. He knows what he's good at, and he does it well. Whereas Gruich, you might have a 5. You're 5 out of 10 one game and 8 out of 10 the next. So you don't really know what you're getting. You might be getting a absolutely, class all-action midfielder, or you might be getting someone who has a game sort of go by him. It's a really tricky one.
It's going to be interesting though as well, because it may be that Gruich comes back and he's like, oh, actually, I preferred it when I was playing week in, week out. I'm miles away from getting into this starting team. I want to stay out. I want to go back out, and I want to move permanently. So it's going to be very interesting. But as we said at the start of this, I do think Chirivella will be a big loss. And, I think a lot of people probably watching this think, what do you mean? He hardly ever got any first team appearances for Liverpool. But I do think with time, he would have been a good option. And as I said, people forget he's 22 years old. He has
nothing.
he has been around for a long time. It does seem like forever. Yes, I know that. But he's still very young, and he's still got a lot to learn. And this season we've seen him with the first team, and most times when he's been playing for us, you've come away going, actually, he was one of the best players on the pitch that game. And in the under-23s, he's looked very good as well. There were videos going around Twitter, obviously, of some of his passing, and he's a very, very good player, Pedro Chirivella. And as I say, I think if he moves on, he'll do very well wherever he goes, and it does seem like a very good deal if Nantes have struck that. More news: Curtis Jones is apparently reported. I believe this is by the Football Insider. They've reported that obviously with Lallana going, we will not be replacing him if he does leave on a free, and Curtis Jones will obviously step up into his role in the Liverpool squad. Brilliant news, James. We've spoke about this for a few weeks now. Obviously, I've said that he's absolutely perfect to be the man who steps up in replacing Adam Lallana. I think obviously it's a ready-made replacement right there. I think the improvement of Curtis Jones this season has been absolutely phenomenal, and I think he'll continue to grow as a player with the more first-team opportunities he gets with us. And as I've said, I think he's at a level now above Adam Lallana. He doesn't bring the same amount of leadership that Adam Lallana's got and brings to the squad, but he brings a new, fresh, young talented player to the squad, and I think next season when he's given more opportunities, he'll thrive, and he'll show everyone exactly how good he is.
Yeah, I feel like I've been saying it all season now, but he is the perfect replacement for Adam Lallana. He's got that flair. He's good with both feet. You can play inside, you can play outside, and if I was say, can you bring someone in to replace this squad player? He is the archetypal sort of Lallana-esque player, and he's got that flair. That he's also technically superb. He can shoot, he can play, he's versatile. He's a perfect player.
I think he's very, very similar, and I mean very similar to Adam Lallana when Jurgen Klopp first came in.
Yeah.
And it's mad looking at how far we've actually come in that time, because obviously Adam Lallana was one of our best players that season. And obviously now we've got Curtis Jones coming through, who I'm saying is at a similar level to that, and obviously he's just a youngster and he's hardly had any time with our first team this season. But I do think they're very similar sort of players, and Curtis Jones is versatile, which Klopp loves. And I think we've seen this season Klopp's obviously trust him in cup competitions. We've seen him thrive in the under-23s with the armband, and obviously we've seen him get his Premier League debut and more time with the bench, more time with the squad. And I think next season he will get more time in the first team. Adam Lallana hasn't had many minutes this season, but he has got minutes. I think we can expect Curtis Jones to get a lot more minutes. And as we've said at times in other videos for this channel, actually I think that Curtis Jones, when given more time to train with the first team, to develop as a player, to play with other players around him that are obviously world-class players that we've got in a mass amount, I think that actually he will grow even more. And we've seen in this short space of time how much he's developed as a player, how much he's got better as a player. And I think we will see more next season of him growing. So it's going to be very interesting. And let us know what you think in the comments about Curtis Jones and whether you feel he is the perfect replacement for Adam Lallana. Let us know what you think about Pedro Chirivella, and obviously the Bundesliga stuff. Let us know about that. Me and James will be back this weekend. Just give us a chance to finish all our dissertations and stuff like that, and then we will be back with obviously a lot of Bundesliga stuff, and obviously maybe we'll have an announcement then whether Chirivella's stuff is done. Obviously, I think Football Insider reported that it'd be an announcement would be at the start of this week, so it'll be interesting to see. Thanks, James, for joining me again, and we'll see you very soon. Ta-ra.